You'll think that revisiting Candyman as an adult will make it easier to watch, but that's a fucking lie. This movie still hits like a nightmare you thought you outgrew. Every time I watch this movie, the fear hits in a place deeper than jump scares. It's not just the gore, it's not just the urban legend. The fear comes from somewhere else. Something psychological, cultural, historical, and personal. Something we don't always see unless we look at this movie through a different lens. Candyman never suffered that fate, and the reason the original still stands above the sequels in reimagining is simple. It was built with intention, not obligation. Welcome to the channel. Today we're breaking down Candyman. The characters, the metaphor, the tone, the music, and the fear that still crawls under your skin decades later. He is history refusing to stay buried. He is what happens when the pain of a community becomes a ghost that demands to be acknowledged. Todd plays him like a tragic romance born from violence, a man murdered for loving a white woman, reborn as a myth that feeds on fear and storytelling. What makes him terrifying isn't the hook, it's the way he talks, it's the way he moves, it's the way he believes that his existence is justified through our belief in him. He says,
"I am the writing on the wall, the whisper in the classroom."
He's not threatening you, he's telling you he's part of the world already. A stain you can't bleach out, a history you can't rewrite. Most horror villains are fictional. Candyman's a reflection, and that's why he lasts. Helen Lai is not a typical horror protagonist. She isn't running from the monster, she's chasing him. She's obsessed with the myth. She wants to expose it, academic style, as if it was a supernatural violence is just another thesis topic. And that's where the fear starts. Candyman is the only movie where the protagonist invites the haunting. Helen is curious, dismissive, determined, and oblivious to danger. She walks into Cabrini Green like it's in a museum, not a living community experience, real trauma. And the movie turns that eagerness into her downfall. Though Helen, the film asks one big question: what happened when you poke a wound you don't understand? Her fear becomes our fear because she keeps pushing and pushing and pushing until Candyman decides she's the perfect canvas of his story. Cabrini Green isn't just a backdrop. It's a character, it's a warning, it's a ghost all by itself. The movie mixes real Chicago history, real socio-economic neglect, and real fear of marginalized communities. Nothing in Candyman is built on a Hollywood soundstage. They film inside the actual Cabrini Green projects in Chicago, a place tied to real poverty, real neglect, and real violence. The production team negotiated with local street organization for safety, hiring residents as extras, and filmed in hallways and apartments where people really live. The danger wasn't cinematic, it was literal. At one point, a sniper shot hit the production van. No one was injured, but the message was clear. This wasn't a fictional horror setting. This was a community with its own living nightmares. And when Helen walks through those hallways, the danger feels real, not supernatural. The graffiti, the stairways, the burnt out apartments, and the sounds echoing through the thin walls. That setting carries more fear than any CGI could ever create. Candyman isn't just summoned by saying his name. He's summoned by environment, history, pain, and silence. Philip Glass didn't write a horror soundtrack, a cathedral opera. Glass later said he didn't realize how violent or graphic the film would be. He thought he was composing for an art drama, but that misunderstanding created something perfect. Tragic piano loops, chants that feels like hymns, and music that feels both holy and cursed. It turned Candyman from a slasher into a myth. That score makes the story feel ancient, like you're watching a ritual unfold instead of a movie. The intense, dreamy, unsettling scene where Helen looked mesmerized by Candyman, those weren't just acting choices. Virginia Madison was actually put under hypnosis for several takes. Director Bernard Rose wanted her eyes to unfocus in a way that looked unnatural, almost like she was seeing something she wasn't supposed to see. For a while, the hypnosis technique worked too well. Madison said she felt vulnerable, exposed, and disoriented, and eventually they stopped using it because it became too real. The results those scenes still feels like you're watching someone slip out of the world into Candyman's. Originally, the studio wanted Candyman to be like other early 90s slashers, more gore, less meaning. But Bernard Rose pushed back. He insists the film be about race, memory, myth, class, fear, and also history. He fought for a beautiful horror film instead of a dumb one. And that battle is why the movie still resonates today, because it respects horror as art. Candyman is scary because he attacks on these 3 levels. The mirror ritual. Everyone knows the saying his name game.
Candyman, 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 Candyman.
It taps in childhood fear. We all tested a mirror at night and we all imagine something behind us. That fear never leaves. Candyman is tied to segregation, southern lynching imagery, and forbidden love. And also racism. That's real world horror. You don't have to believe in ghosts to believe in trauma. Candyman doesn't exist without belief, and belief spreads the affection. He tells Helen, be my victim. But what he really means is, be my believer. Candyman isn't haunting you, he wants you to carry him mentally, culturally, spiritually. He wants to be remembered. And that is the scariest fear of all. The fear that stories can make monsters real. The film isn't just about a ghost. It's about how we process trauma, how communities build myths, and how pain becomes legends. Candyman is not the villain, he is the storyteller, and he focused the audience to confront the truth. Every society creates the monster it deserves. Candyman is the voice of the unheard, the thing society would rather not talk about, the thing we want to pretend doesn't exist. So why does Candyman still scare us? Because he represents everything we don't want to face. The stories passed down quietly through generations. Candyman is the monster that points back at us and says, you made me. He's not just haunting Helen, he's haunting us. And that's why the movie doesn't just survive the decades, it grows stronger with every viewing. If you watch this whole breakdown, drop a B in the comments and remember, don't say his name, don't test the mirror, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and welcome to the dark side.